Okay, let's go over some examples for 4.2. When you read the directions for number 39, it says something about using the period to evaluate. So I'm going to look at example 2 on page 269. It says using the period to evaluate sine and cosine. It wants us to find the sine of 13 pi over 6. Well, I'm in my head thinking that's more than a circle. 13 pi over 6, that's improper, and it's 2 1/6 pi, and 2 pi is a circle, so it's this much over a circle. So if you use the period to evaluate, you can subtract the period of sine, which is 2 pi. So we can subtract that from our given angle, and we would get a common denominator of 6. Which would bring us to sine of pi over 6. This is a point on our unit circle. So we go to our unit circle. It's on the front inside cover of our book. I'll show you what I am looking at. And I'm looking for pi over 6. Whoops. And it's this, and there's the ordered pair. Every ordered pair on the unit circle is cosine and then sine. So the sine of pi over 6 is the y value. It's a half. So when we go back to our problem, what's the sine of pi over 6? It's a half. Okay, let's do the next example. I closed my book. Let's find cosine of negative 7 pi over 2. Let's ignore the fact right now that it's negative, and let's just find the cosine of negative 7 pi over 2. Well, let's just think about 7 pi over 2. It's improper. When you write it as a mixed number, 2 goes into 7 3 times and a half left over. So it's 3.5 pi. 2 pi is a full circle, so it's more than a full circle. So cosine of negative 7 pi over 2, let's add a full circle to it. So common denominator, that would be 4 pi over 2. That's equal to the cosine of negative 3 pi over 2. Now you have choices. There's at least 3 ways you can do this. One way is I can add 2 pi to this again. So I can add another 4 pi over 2. And when I do that, I get the cosine of positive pi over 2, which is on our unit circle. It's one of our quadrant angles. It's right here. And its ordered pair is 0, 1. And every ordered pair is cosine sine. So the cosine of pi over 2 is 0. It's one way. Second way you can do it is you can look at your unit circle. And what was that? Negative 3 pi over 2. So you look at your unit circle and you find positive 3 pi over 2. Positive 3 pi over 2 is all this much positively. So negative 3 pi over 2 is all that much. So it's the same thing as positive pi over 2. So we are using this ordered pair, and the cosine is 0. Third way to do it, that was the second way. The third way to do it is to say the cosine of negative 3 pi over 2. Well, according to my even-odd rules, cosine of negative x is the same thing as the cosine of positive x. It's even. And I would get the same thing whether I plug in a negative x or a positive x. So the cosine of this negative angle is the same thing as the cosine of that positive angle. And the cosine of the positive angle is 3 pi over 2, which is the ordered pair 0, no, negative 1. And it has a cosine value of 0. That's how all these things are interwoven. C part says for sine of t equal to 4/5 sine of negative t equals negative 4/5. That's even and odd rules. Because the function is odd. Using the period to evaluate. Using the period to evaluate. I wouldn't necessarily say that's using the period to evaluate. I'd say that's more like using the even and odd rules. Sine is odd. Sine of negative t, by definition, is negative sine of t. So, if I know that sine of negative t is negative 4/5, is that how I want to go about it? Let me not go there yet. If this is by the definition or the rule, then let me go at what they gave us originally. That's the negative of whatever the sine of t is. And the sine of t is 4/5. So it's the negative of 4/5. Okay. Do I want to do... So that's all your examples. So on number 39, when you go to start working this, and you're finding the sine of 5 pi, I want you to think. And it says in the direction, use period as the aid. This is more than a circle. So let's subtract the period, which is 2 pi. So that's the same thing as the sine of 3 pi. That's still more than a circle. So subtract pi from it. So that's the same thing as pi. And that's on our unit circle, and I can look that up. 47, 49, and 51, you're going to use the even and odd rules. And see if you can make sense of those things. I skipped 51, actually. I omitted it. 53, you're just using your calculator. And all these are radian measures, so make sure your calculator's in radian mode. So you just do sine pi over 7 and hit enter, and you get your answer. Like on 63, where they want the secant of 22.8. Well, that's secant's reciprocal is cosine. So the secant of 22.8 is the same thing as 1 over the cosine of 22.8. So you can do that on your calculator that way if you'd like. And I know you'll have a few questions for me, and I'll be ready. Let's just please keep an open mind and listen, and avoid feeding off each other and making negative comments. Let's try to keep things positive. And I do apologize for throwing too many new things at you.